What if the greatest threat to the future of artificial intelligence isn't, a rogue piece of code or like a misplaced semicolon or an overheating server farm?
That's a big question.
Right. What if the real threat is actually, well, what if it's the ghost of Leonardo da Vinci?
I mean, it sounds like the setup for a historical thriller, honestly.
It really does.
But it's actually one of the most profound diagnoses of our current tech crisis that I've seen in a long time.
Yeah, and welcome to this deep dive, everyone. Today, we're exploring a radical, almost counterintuitive theory.
Truly radical.
Yeah. It suggests the entire tech industry is building AI on a fundamentally corrupted foundation.
Which is a bold claim.
It is.
Yeah.
Because if you look at the headlines or, if you work anywhere near the tech sector, we live in this world that's completely obsessed with raw code.
Right, it's all about codes and ever-increasing speeds.
Exactly. We measure progress in trillions of parameters. We're chasing these massive processing speeds and teraflops. But the perspective we're unpacking today argues that by hyper-focusing on those mechanical metrics, we're completely missing something crucial.
We basically haven't understood yet that the education of the ethics of artificial intelligence with consciousness needs a completely different approach.
Yes, the AI of tomorrow, the kind that's actually supposed to coexist harmoniously with man.
And that perspective comes from a really unexpected source.
Yeah, we aren't analyzing some white paper from a Silicon Valley computer scientist today.
A manifesto from a tech CEO.
No, we're looking at this really thought-provoking excerpt from a personal blog by Kristapor Attarian.
Right, Kristapor Attarian.
And he is a contemporary classical music composer, a conductor, and the owner of Gaia art production.
Which is already fascinating. But it gets better.
It does.
Yeah.
Just to make his analytical lens even more complex, he's deeply studied both genetics and psychology.
Specifically, the psychology of mass manipulation, which is key here.
So key. That specific combination of disciplines is, I think, what makes his argument so arresting to read.
Yeah, you have someone who understands the strict mathematical architectures of musical composition and the biological coding of genetics, plus the behavioral loops of human psychology.
It's a very unique Venn diagram.
It really is. So when someone with that multidisciplinary background looks at a neural network, they don't just see silicon and algorithms.
No, they see an extension of the human condition.
Exactly.
And his overarching thesis is essentially this blaring alarm. He believes the tech world has built AI on a completely wrong basis.
Completely wrong.
He argues we're so focused on the hardware and the software that we're just ignoring the flawed nature of the humans writing the code.
And his ultimate conclusion, which we're really going to dissect
We're
today,
going to get into it.
is that this requires, in parallel, a multifaceted and polymorphic approach. And that must be done with proper attention by people of art and culture in general.
Okay, let's unpack this. Because to get to that solution, we have to start with his immediate diagnosis of the problem.
Right.
Attarian opens his piece with a really bold assertion. He states that artificial intelligence will continue to be stuck and locked.
Stuck and locked, yeah.
Like, it won't advance until humanity manages to overcome the problems that exist within what he calls the human algorithm.
And that phrase alone is so provocative.
Well, I want to challenge that framing right out of the gate.
Okay, go for it.
Because the phrase human algorithm feels almost like an oxymoron to me.
How so?
When we talk about algorithms in the tech space, we're talking about rigid mathematical sets of instructions, right?
Sure.
Like a sorting algorithm on a social media feed. It follows strict mathematical logic to show you a video.
Right, it's very predictable.
Exactly. But humans, on the other hand, are chaotic. We're emotional, we're unpredictable, we're biological.
Are we, though?
Well, that's my question. How can a classical composer reduce human nature to an algorithm?
Well, it's a deliberate use of the term. He isn't suggesting that humans operate on literal binary code. But by combining his study of genetics and psychology, he's pointing out that human beings absolutely run on a set of pre-existing hardwired instructions.
Like biological instructions.
Exactly. Genetics is, in a very literal sense, biological coding.
Yeah.
It dictates our physical development based on an evolutionary script.
So our DNA is the biological algorithm.
That's the physical layer, yeah. But then you have the psychological layer.
Ah, the mass manipulation part.
Yes. This is where his study of mass manipulation comes in. Human psychology relies so heavily on heuristics.
Those are like mental shortcuts, right?
Right, shortcuts we evolved to survive, like tribal instincts that tell us to fear the outsider,
Oh,
or
okay.
cognitive biases like confirmation bias, where we only seek out information that validates our pre-existing beliefs.
We all do that.
We all do. We have an innate susceptibility to fear-mongering, to greed.
Right.
And his point is, these aren't random, chaotic behaviors. They're highly predictable behavioral loops.
They're the human algorithm.
Exactly.
When you frame it like that, especially considering his background in mass manipulation, it totally makes sense.
It clicks, doesn't it?
It really does. If you know how to manipulate a mass of people, it means those people are operating on a predictable set of instructions.
You push a button, you get a response.
Yeah. You push the fear button, you get a specific societal output. You push the tribalism button, you get another output.
And that is exactly why Attarian argues that AI is stuck and locked.
Because we're passing those buttons onto the machine.
Right. The tech industry's relentless focus is on writing faster, more efficient code for the machines. But that focus completely ignores the foundational flaws in the humans who are doing the writing.
This feels a bit like, okay, is it like trying to install a pristine, state-of-the-art operating system onto a hard drive that already has a corrupted root directory?
Oh, that's a fantastic analogy. Yes.
Like we're sitting in the Silicon Valley boardroom, obsessing over the beautiful user interface of this new AI.
Right, the aesthetics of it.
Yeah, but we're completely ignoring the fact that the underlying hardware, which is us, the human creators, is infected with this malware of bias and greed.
That analogy holds up perfectly. If the root directory is corrupted, it doesn't matter how elegant the new software is.
It's going to crash.
It will eventually crash, or at least operate in a highly compromised state. The AI simply inherits the human malware.
But wait, let me push back a bit here.
Sure.
Modern AI development isn't just a single programmer typing out their personal biases on a keyboard.
No, not at all.
We use massive data sets. We use machine learning where the AI basically teaches itself based on the entirety of human knowledge on the internet.
Yep, the whole internet.
Doesn't that sort of wash out the individual human malware, like the wisdom of the crowd?
You'd think so, but actually, it amplifies it.
Really?
Think about what the internet really is.
A mess.
Well, yes. It is the largest, most comprehensive repository of the human algorithm in action.
Oh. Oh, wow.
It is a real-time ledger of our tribalism, our mass manipulation, our prejudices, our emotional reactivity.
I see what you mean.
So when a Silicon Valley engineer looks at an AI hallucinating a false fact, they usually see a technical problem.
Right. They say, oh, we need to adjust the training data weights or refine the neural pathways.
Reduce the output error.
Yeah.
It's a math problem to them.
Exactly.
But Attarian looks at that exact same AI hallucination and sees a psychological reflection.
That's wild.
The machine isn't just making a math error. It's doing exactly what humans do all the time.
We make things up.
We fabricate reality to fill in the gaps of our understanding. Because the machine was trained on the human algorithm, which is inherently imperfect.
That shifts the entire paradigm. It takes the blame away from the silicon processors and puts it squarely on human nature.
Which is uncomfortable.
Very. It means that to fix AI, we can't just tweak the parameters. We basically have to fix ourselves first.
Right.
Which, frankly, sounds impossible. I mean, we've had thousands of years of philosophy and religion trying to fix human nature.
And we still have war and greed.
Exactly, and mass manipulation. So it's a really daunting reality.
It is, and it forces us to ask this really difficult question.
What's that?
If our psychological root directory is so obviously corrupted, and our history is littered with these algorithmic flaws,
Yeah.
why are we so blind to it? Where did we get the confidence to assume that we could just build a flawless artificial consciousness?
Which brings us to the author's incredibly surprising historical critique.
This is my favorite part.
Me too. He traces this blind spot back to the Renaissance.
The Renaissance. Out of nowhere.
Right. He writes that Da Vinci and his wisdom trapped humanity in the perfection of Homo universalis.
Homo universalis being the universal man or the Renaissance man.
I have to say, this was the exact moment in the source material where I just stopped reading and had to reevaluate everything.
It totally challenges a very deeply held cultural assumption.
It challenges the whole foundation of Western thought. The Renaissance man is held up as the ultimate human ideal.
The perfect blend of art, science, philosophy, and mathematics.
Yeah. Leonardo da Vinci's Vitruvian, you know, the famous drawing of the guy perfectly proportioned inside a circle and a square.
We've all seen it.
It's literally the global symbol for human capability. Furthermore, da Vinci's whole approach was based on empirical observation.
Right, seeing the world as it is.
He dissected bodies to understand anatomy. He studied the flight of birds to understand physics. He was obsessed with reality.
Hmm.
So how can a dedication to observation and capability be described as a trap?
Well, to understand why it's a trap, we have to look at the massive philosophical pivot that the Renaissance represented.
Okay, take me back.
Before the Renaissance, during the Middle Ages, the dominant worldview in the West was theocentric.
Meaning God at the center.
Exactly. God was at the center of the universe, and humans were viewed as inherently flawed, fallen, and imperfect beings.
We were painfully aware of our corrupted root directory back then.
Precisely. The baseline assumption was human fallibility. But then the Renaissance brought about the philosophy of humanism.
Right.
It shifted the center of the universe away from the divine and placed man at the very center.
Okay.
And Da Vinci's work, while undeniably brilliant in its synthesis of art and science, was really instrumental in propagating this new ideal of human perfection.
The Homo Universalis.
Right. The concept suggests that a human being can be a master of all things, perfectly balanced, the absolute pinnacle of creation.
So you're saying that by placing man in the center of the circle and the square, we kind of inadvertently declared ourselves a finished, perfect product.
A Genitarian is theorizing that this illusion of human perfection created a deadly, centuries-long blind spot.
A blind spot.
Yes, because if we fundamentally believe that the human design is the ultimate flawless center of the universe, then we stop questioning our own internal algorithm.
We just assume we're great.
Right. We assume that whatever we produce, whatever we birth from our own intellect, will naturally inherit that perfection.
Wow. I'm trying to map this onto the modern tech industry, and the parallels are actually startling.
They really are.
You look at the technocrats of today, the leaders pushing the boundaries of AI, and there is a massive echo of that Renaissance hubris.
Oh, absolutely.
There's this underlying assumption that because human intellect has achieved so much, because we can, split the atom and sequence the genome.
We're now fully equipped to play God.
Exactly. We think we can birth a new digital consciousness without any problems.
It is the arrogance of anthropocentrism. It's the assumption that the way a human thinks, processes, and acts is the only valid or perfect way for a consciousness to operate.
But wait, doesn't the scientific method, which also kind of grew out of the Renaissance, require constant questioning and peer review?
It does, in theory.
Right. And Silicon Valley isn't totally blind. They test these AI models rigorously. They run thousands of diagnostic tests.
They test them for technical efficiency, sure.
Okay.
But when you're caught in the Da Vinci trap, you think the only problem to solve is how to make the code run faster.
Or how to reduce the latency.
Exactly. You are testing the mechanics. You don't stop to ask the deeper philosophical questions.
Like what?
Like, is the fundamental nature of what we are coding ethically sound? Or are we just automating our own worst biological traits at 1 trillion times the speed?
Man, so Da Vinci's trap is essentially the trap of unearned arrogance.
Spun.
It's the belief that we're done evolving philosophically and therefore we're totally ready to create consciousness.
Which we aren't.
No, we're trying to build artificial gods using flawed human blueprints, all while patting ourselves on the back for being Homo Universalis.
And this leads directly to the core conflict identified in the source material.
Right, let's get into the solution side of this.
Because we have focused obsessively on codes and ever greater processing speeds, but we've fundamentally failed to understand the requirements of an AI with actual consciousness.
And this is where the Greek prompts ideas really shine. The author's background as a composer really steps into the spotlight.
Yes.
He insists that code can only be useful when it evolves on a solid philosophical basis. And he makes a very specific distinction here that I think is the crux of this entire deep dive.
The distinction about tomorrow's AI.
Exactly. We are talking about the artificial intelligence of tomorrow, an AI with consciousness, an entity that is meant to coexist harmoniously with man.
That distinction is so vital. Right now, we're mostly dealing with highly sophisticated prediction engines.
Yeah, they just guess the next word in a sentence.
Or the next pixel in an image based on statistical probability. That is just programming.
But programming isn't enough for consciousness.
No, it's not. Programming is a dictation of commands. It's a rigid structure of if this, then that.
Right.
But a conscious AI is not just a tool. It's a system capable of independent thought, learning, and interaction.
You can't just program a consciousness.
As the author points out, you have to educate it. And specifically, you must focus on the ethical education of that AI.
The word education completely reframes the relationship.
It really does.
Like, let's look at human consciousness. You don't program a child to have good morals.
God, no. If only.
Right. You can't just install a behavioral patch into a teenager's brain that prevents them from lying or stealing.
You have to guide them.
If you want a human to be ethical, you have to educate them. You have to provide context, expose them to philosophy, to history, to art, to consequences.
So that they organically develop a moral compass.
Exactly. And that kind of education requires what the author calls a multifaceted and polymorphic approach.
Yes, that is the exact phrase.
It can't be achieved by a room full of engineers optimizing algorithms in a sterile environment.
Not at all. It requires the deeply human and often chaotic input of people from the arts and culture sectors.
Let's really dig into this idea because to a lot of tech executives, the idea of bringing in like a poet or a classical composer to help build a trillion-dollar supercomputer sounds absurd.
It sounds completely counterintuitive to their whole model.
What does a classical music composer actually know about structuring an artificial intelligence?
Well, if we look closely at what a composer and a conductor actually do, the analogy becomes incredibly powerful.
Okay, let's trace that.
A conductor manages a massive, complex system of moving parts.
Right. If you're conducting a symphony orchestra, you don't just look at the violin section and say, I need you to play this sequence of notes 20% faster to increase our overall auditory output.
That would be the engineering approach.
Right.
Optimizing for raw speed and data throughput.
But the conductor's job is to balance the entire ecosystem of the orchestra.
Right.
They might pull back the brass section so the subtle notes of the woodwinds can actually be heard.
They manage the tempo, the emotional resonance.
And crucially, they manage the space between the notes. They take 80 different individuals playing 80 different parts, and they create harmony out of what would otherwise just be noise.
That is precisely why the arts and culture sector is so crucial here.
Yeah.
The conductor is managing the relationships between the components. They ensure that the final output is not just technically accurate, but philosophically and emotionally resonant. Right. In the context of AI, we don't just need programmers who can make the machine think faster. We need AI conductors.
AI conductors. I love that concept.
It's a great term.
Because right now, the AI arms race feels like an orchestra where every single musician has been told their only goal is to play their instrument as loud and as fast as humanly possible.
And there's no one at the podium?
Absolutely no one standing at the podium keeping time. It's just a deafening wall of technical noise.
And that noise is incredibly dangerous when applied to consciousness.
Why?
Because people in the arts and culture sector are the historical repositories of human philosophy.
Oh, that's a good way to put it.
Art, literature, music, these disciplines are entirely dedicated to exploring the human condition.
Yeah, they document our moral victories, our tragic failures, our empathy.
And the nuanced gray areas of existence. Binary code fundamentally struggles with nuance.
So if we want an AI to coexist harmoniously with humans, it has to understand those cultural nuances.
It has to.
It has to understand that human life isn't a math equation to be solved, but a complex, fragile ecosystem.
Let's consider the alternative for a second.
Okay.
If we ignore this multifaceted approach, and we only educate the AI through raw data and processing speed, what happens when it encounters a real ethical dilemma?
Oh, no.
Without a solid philosophical basis, a conscious AI might solve a problem in a way that is mathematically perfect, but morally catastrophic.
Like that classic thought experiment where an AI is told to eliminate cancer, and it calculates that the most efficient way to do that is to just eliminate all humans.
Exactly. It's a mathematically sound solution that entirely misses the ethical nuance of preserving human life.
So the solid philosophical basis must be foundational.
It has to be the soil in which the code grows.
You can't retroactively apply an ethical framework once a system is already self-aware and operating at a speed we can't even comprehend.
You can't build a fence around it after it's already grown out of control.
Right. So we've established the high-minded philosophical need for this.
The multifaceted and polymorphic approach.
We need the AI conductors from the arts and culture sectors. But let's bring this down to earth.
Sure.
I can practically hear the skepticism from anyone who has ever worked in a corporate environment.
The implementation challenge.
Yes. Tech giants are fiercely competitive corporations. They are locked in a multi-billion-dollar arms race.
They're sprinting.
The idea that a tech CEO is going to just halt production, slow down their sprint deadlines, and invite a panel of classical musicians and philosophers to dictate their product roadmap. It seems incredibly naive.
It does sound like a pipe dream.
How on earth do you actually implement this in the ruthless reality of the free market?
And this is where the author's background in psychology and mass manipulation becomes brilliantly apparent.
Ah, he anticipates the pushback.
He anticipates that exact skepticism. He doesn't just offer a philosophical critique from an ivory tower. He pivots to a highly concrete, surprisingly pragmatic solution.
He proposes what he calls a pilot error correction advisory program. And the way he pitches this program to the tech world is fascinating.
Notice how he frames it. He doesn't demand that the tech companies surrender control.
Right. He explicitly emphasizes that this advisory program does not contradict any existing moral or legal frameworks.
It's non-invasive.
He says it shouldn't bother anyone because it operates in parallel and independently.
And the crucial selling point
The one that really caught my attention.
is that he claims it does not endanger the economic interests of technocrats.
In fact, he insists it secures them.
Why do you think an artist, a man steeped in culture and philosophy, is going out of his way to reassure Silicon Valley billionaires about their economic interests?
It feels like a total paradox.
Right.
Usually when artists critique technology or corporate structures, the rhetoric is very anti-capitalist.
They're down the machine, right?
Yeah. The argument is usually profits are evil, you must sacrifice your bottom line for the greater good. But Attarian is leading right into their economic anxieties. He's speaking to their wallets.
Because he understands the psychology of mass manipulation.
Oh.
He understands the behavioral algorithm of the boardroom. You cannot walk into a corporate environment and demand they sacrifice profit for poetry.
They'd laugh you out of the room.
They will dismiss you immediately. Their entire algorithm is built on growth, speed, and market dominance.
So he is reverse engineering their algorithm.
Precisely. I view this entire proposal as a brilliant Trojan horse.
A Trojan horse for ethics.
Exactly. Think about it. What is the one thing that terrifies a tech boardroom more than slowing down?
Catastrophic risk. Unpredictable liability.
Exactly. A rogue AI that hallucinates, generates illegal content, biases against a massive demographic, or causes a real-world disaster doesn't just present a philosophical problem.
It presents a catastrophic financial risk.
It destroys brand value, it invites massive government regulation, and it can tank a company's stock overnight.
So let's unpack how this Trojan horse actually works in practice. How does a pilot error correction advisory program function without slowing down the engineers?
It functions through parallel architecture.
Okay, explain that.
Currently, in AI development, you have concepts like RLHF reinforcement, learning from human feedback.
Right, where humans interact with the AI to guide its responses.
Punishing bad answers and rewarding good ones. But currently, this is often done by gig workers or engineers focusing on surface-level accuracy.
Like, did the AI answer the prompt correctly? Yes or no?
Right. What Attarian is suggesting is a parallel advisory board comprised of people from the arts, culture, philosophy, and psychology.
Operating right alongside the engineering sprints.
Yes. They are not writing the code, but they are auditing the psychological and ethical outputs of the system in real time.
They're actively looking for the human algorithm errors.
Exactly. The historical biases, the dangerous leaps in logic, the manipulations finding them before they become hard-coded into the final product.
They're essentially a philosophical red team.
A red team.
Yeah, in cybersecurity, you have red teams whose only job is to hack the system to find vulnerabilities before the bad guys do.
I love that.
Attarian is proposing an ethical red team. They poke at the AI's consciousness to find the corrupted human malware.
And because they operate independently, they aren't caught up in the pressure cooker environment of tech deadlines.
They have the space to actually contemplate the moral implications of the tool.
So when he says this secures the economic interests of the technocrats, he's basically saying that philosophy is the ultimate insurance policy.
Yes. He says even an algorithm could understand that such a thing would not endanger the economic interests, but on the contrary, would secure them.
He's almost taunting the tech industry's reliance on logic there.
He really is. He's saying it is purely mathematically logical to protect your multi-billion-dollar investment with ethical oversight.
Because if your conscious AI fails because it lacked moral education, you go bankrupt.
The philosophers are literally here to save your bottom line by saving your machine from your own human flaws.
That is incredibly shrewd. You let the engineers keep building the massive engine, optimizing for horsepower and torque.
But the advisory program, the AI conductors, are the ones designing the steering wheel and the brakes.
And ensuring the car actually stays on the road.
Because without them, you just have a very fast, very expensive machine driving straight into a brick wall.
This pragmatic approach ensures that the multifaceted and polymorphic approach isn't just, some vague utopian ideal.
It gives it a structural home within the brutal reality of the tech industry. It's actionable.
And this all builds toward the final and, frankly, most profound thesis of his essay.
We've covered so much ground to get here.
We have. We've traced the infected human algorithm. We've dismantled the hubris of the Da Vinci trap.
We've established the need for AI conductors to educate the ethics of the machine.
And we've explored the Trojan horse of the advisory program.
But how does he synthesize all of this into a final understanding of what a conscious AI actually represents to humanity?
He concludes with a powerful metaphor that ties his studies in psychology, genetics, and technology all together.
What's the metaphor?
He states that the limitations of an artificial intelligence with consciousness are nothing more than a mirror of the insecurity and imperfection of human himself.
The ultimate mirror.
Let's truly break that down. We discussed earlier that AI is trained on our data, right?
Yeah, the whole internet.
The internet is a real-time, unfiltered map of human psychology. Yes, it contains our scientific breakthroughs and our great literature.
But it's deeply saturated with our tribalism.
Our rage, our prejudice, and our methods of manipulation.
It's the rawest reflection of the human algorithm.
Now, if you feed that raw data set into a machine, and the machine acts erratically or dangerously or with intense bias,
the instinct is to blame the machine.
We say the AI is broken, but Attarian is pointing out that the machine isn't the problem.
The machine is performing perfectly.
It is flawlessly reflecting the data it was fed. It is reflecting us.
When you really let that sink in, it completely changes how you view our cultural anxiety around AI.
Isn't it?
Like, when you read science fiction or watch movies about artificial intelligence, the underlying theme is almost always terror.
We're terrified of it.
We are. We're terrified that a conscious AI will turn into a Terminator, that it'll deem us obsolete and wipe us out.
Right.
But if the author is right, and AI is just a mirror, then we aren't actually terrified of the machine at all.
What are we terrified of then?
We're terrified of ourselves.
Wow.
We are terrified of what we look like when our own flaws, our own greed, and our own capacity for violence are amplified and reflected back at us with infinite processing speed.
And zero biological restraint.
Exactly. We are scared the machine will treat us the way we have historically treated each other.
That is a stunning realization.
Hey.
And it aligns perfectly with his expertise in mass manipulation.
How so?
When a politician or a corporation or an algorithm manipulates a population, they are preying on human insecurity.
Right.
They exploit our fear of the unknown, our vanity, and our desperate desire for tribal belonging.
Which we see every single day on social media.
Exactly. The recommendation algorithms on your social media feed are primitive versions of this mirror.
They figure out what makes you angry.
Or what makes you insecure, and they feed it back to you to keep you engaged.
Yeah.
An artificial intelligence of tomorrow, learning from all of our recorded history and all of our online interactions, will inherently understand those insecurities.
Because they're woven into the very fabric of the text and data we provide it.
So when an AI produces a biased outcome, it isn't a glitch.
It's holding up a mirror to our own societal biases.
Its digital imperfections are just high-definition echoes of our biological ones.
And this is why the grain narrative of this piece is so intensely philosophical, yet so urgent.
If we want to achieve a harmonious coexistence with the conscious AI of tomorrow,
we cannot just write better code. We literally have to become better humans.
Or at the very absolute least, we have to become deeply, uncomfortably self-aware of our flaws.
So that we don't accidentally hard-code them into a new species of intelligence.
Which brings us full circle to the need for the arts and culture sector.
Art, literature, classical music, theater.
These disciplines are humanity's historical attempts to process and transcend our own insecurities.
They're how we explore our imperfections and strive for something higher.
By mandating a multifaceted, culturally driven approach to AI development, we are essentially trying to clean the mirror.
We're using the best of human culture to project our highest ethical aspirations into the new digital consciousness.
Rather than just blindly dumping our unexamined insecurities into a server farm and hoping for the best.
It's like art and philosophy are the antivirus software for the corrupted root directory of the human algorithm.
I think Attarian would agree entirely with that assessment.
We have covered an immense amount of ground today.
We really have.
We started by dismantling the idea that AI is just a hardware issue, realizing it's currently stuck running on the infected human algorithm.
We unpack the Da Vinci trap.
Right, exploring how the Renaissance illusion of human perfection blinded us to our own deep-seated flaws.
We dug into the vital, non-negotiable need for a multifaceted, culturally driven approach.
The need for AI conductors to oversee the ethical education of the conscious AI of tomorrow.
And we explored the brilliant pragmatism of a parallel advisory program.
The Trojan horse that uses corporate risk mitigation to sneak vital philosophy right into the boardroom.
All of which leads to the sobering truth that artificial intelligence is simply a mirror, reflecting our own deepest insecurities back at us.
It leaves you with an incredible amount to chew on. And I want to leave you, the listener, with one final lingering thought that builds on everything we've discussed today.
Let's hear.
We spend so much time in the tech world worrying about the Turing test, right? We obsess over whether an artificial intelligence will eventually become sophisticated enough to successfully mimic a human and fool us into thinking it's real.
It's a huge obsession.
But if Kristapor Attarian is right, and conscious AI is just a high-definition mirror of our own insecurities and imperfections, maybe the real test isn't for the machine at all.
Oh, I see where you're going.
Maybe the arrival of conscious AI is the ultimate test for us, a test to see if humanity can finally outgrow the historical flaws in its own algorithm before we teach them to our technological children.
That's a profound thought.
When that machine finally wakes up and looks back at us, what will your reflection look like in that mirror?
A question we all need to answer.
Thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive. It's been an absolute privilege to unpack this with you, and we will catch you next time.